Welcome to the Blackburn End Podcast. Well, here we are once again, and once again we're talking about a downturn in form after Christmas, and once again we're starting a new therapy session. Here we go again. So let's start with the headlines. So a tired-looking Rovers can't break down a stubborn Coventry to lose 2-0 at home. Injuries are mounting up once again as the fans are calling for answers. Eustace looks for a response, but it's another loss at Bristol City as they win 2-1 to leave Rovers fans fuming. And McFadden leaves, but Travis returns, but there's still no more signings. Mark, do we have to do this? Should we knock it on the head? Should we have an early night? Should we have a drink? How are we going to cope with this one?
I'm happy to knock it on the head. It's Monday as we record it. It's dark. It's raining. It's cold. Rovers can all do one. Yeah, see you next week.
I mean, I'm laughing, but it's through gritted teeth and tears at the moment. We've got two horrendous games to go through. We've got a derby coming up. Yeah, it's not great. It's not a great time to be a Rovers fan after all this promise. We've had podcasts recently where I remember we start them and we were both absolutely buzzing. And when I introduced you, I remember it's like, Mark, this is brilliant. Like, let's talk for 90 minutes about how awesome we are. And now it's, do we even have to do this? Like, should we just, does anyone really want to listen to us right now?
Well, I usually feel better by the end of them. I think we usually try and give a balanced opinion and we usually try and see it from both sides. That might be a big challenge today, but we'll try our best, mate. We'll give it a bloody good go, just like our team do every single time.
Oh, well done. Hopefully we can last the podcast without getting injured like our team do. So just a little warning to people listening. We do the match reactions, obviously the audio. They're long this time, both of them. So enjoy. The first one was obviously from the Coventry game midweek. Normally they're about 40 seconds long, maybe 60. This is 3 minutes 42, the first one, so enjoy. This is a raw review. I'm fuming once again. I felt the first half was really solid. I thought we were looking good. But once again, we're talking about the same thing. Strength and conditioning coaches are just not doing their jobs. We looked absolutely shot. There was zero energy. We couldn't even muster the energy to fight back or even stay on side. We couldn't even knock the ball 10 yards without people looking like they were going to fall over. I mean, to be honest, mate, I was looking at them and you can tell they're physically shot when they go for a ball and they can't tightly turn. So, like, they can't even plant their foot and turn. They're having to turn in circles because they just don't have the strength. I mean, everyone was falling down. Everyone was getting injured. They look mentally drained. They look physically drained, and it comes down to the owners. I know we've discussed on the pod, and you know we broke down how a transfer works and not about taking risks. I'm sorry, they need to start taking risks. We haven't got the players to cope with. You know, it's happening every single winter. Every winter we have the hectic Christmas schedule. The EFL is hectic on its own, let alone having all the Christmas schedule as well. We come out of it, we've got game after game after game. We can't handle it. We go into the winter lull, and then we manage to pull a rabbit out of the hat near the end of the season and actually look half decent. It can't keep going on, mate. Something needs to change there. I don't think it was tactical because Eustace has his hands tied. Yeah, I'm just absolutely fuming. We've got massive games coming up now because it needs to change. Something needs to happen. You know, you've tweeted out that we've got a first 11 of players that we can't even play at the moment. I know this is meant to be just a reaction, but I can't stop ranting, mate. But talking about some individual performances, I thought Toth did well. I know that first goal, he probably could have done a little bit better, but generally he looked solid. I thought Gay had a decent game. But again, we missed chances. They took theirs. I thought their keeper had a really good game. I think that was there for all to see. But now I'm conscious of the fact that I've been ranting for 2 minutes 30. I want to rant for longer, but I'll save that for the pod.
I don't really want to do this. We've not scored again. We actually played all right in a couple of tiny spells, but the injuries are just killing us. There's over a full team of players that probably would start. This is getting beyond a joke. I just don't know where to start with it, and I feel like banging my head against a brick wall. Oh, for God's sake. I've got to say, I've debated about this, but as much as we've praised Eustace, I think he's got to take some blame for this injury crisis. Tronstad out for 6 weeks, Britain muscular, Bath muscular. His insistence to play the same, more or less the same 11 time and time again. Why play that team in the cup? As much as we've praised him, and we've praised what he's got out of them, it is now looking at his squad management, whether he trusts them or not, is going to have to come into question.
Well, that was a couple of happy chappies. Just a little peek behind the curtain once again. I did like my rant, sent it to Mark, and he sent me like 20 seconds being all miserable. I messaged back saying, mate, you need to give me more than that because I've ranted for 2.5 minutes here. I need you. So then that's why, obviously, you got stitched a bit. So let's talk about the reaction. Obviously, we've had a chance to sit down. We try and isolate the fact that we ended up playing not as well against Bristol. Do you still feel against Eustace a little bit with his decision making, or have you changed your mind a little bit? How's your thought process changed?
Yeah, it's not Eustace's fault, is it? I think that was based on the fact that we got Tronstad injured, and then Britain had played the 90 minutes or more or less at Middlesbrough, and I got injured. Bath had, and same for Beck, looked like he got a knock. So from that aspect, but if he doesn't trust the players, if he sees them day in day out, if they're not good enough, they're not good enough, and he doesn't want to go to Middlesbrough and get embarrassed. So I was just frustrated. It's not Eustace's fault. How the hell is it Eustace's fault? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know I completely went off on a tangent because the whole point of this is, when we react, it's supposed to be reacting just about the game, the performance, and so on. But it's really hard to isolate that thought because everything started with promise. Coming into the Christmas period, we had a couple of games where we wasn't too sure, but we come into the Christmas period and we're in the playoffs, we're doing well. We can see the fact that we've got a couple of tough games coming up against the Dingles and Leeds, but then there was a period of fixtures after where it was like, okay, well, if we can expand the squad, if we can do certain things, if we can keep people fit, then we can really push on. It's a really good opportunity. And this game for me was a microcosm of the problems that we've been having. So the lack of depth. Now, I put a tweet out after, and I got a few pelters. Well, I got a couple of pelters. I tended to have more people supporting than not. In fact, Gary actually messaged saying, "Did you not listen to Mark? Maybe have a listen about the transfers." But the point I'm making is so basically, I tweeted out saying it's on the owners now because every single year we're having this fall off. Every single year we have the injury crisis. And I'm talking about strength and conditioning coaches. Now, there was people saying, well, you can't, they're dead on their feet. Of course, they're going to be tired. It's like, yes, but if we prepared the guys at the start of the season, that will help them play for longer without injury. So my first reaction was to have a go at the strength and conditioning coaches. Like, they were getting my brunt because I was like, well, you're not keeping players fit. And then it was at the owners for not strengthening the team, because they should be strengthening the team, because if we haven't got players that are fit enough to last the season, then the squad's not big enough, so we need to add depth. And then I was having a go at the manager because I was like, well, the manager should have rotated more when he had a chance. So everyone was getting the brunt of it from me after the game. And I still feel that way. I still feel like there's a lot that needs to be done. Now, taking the game into isolation, we look at the starting lineup and the glaring change that was made was Toth in goal. I think everyone was really excited to see him. What was your first thought when you saw Toth having this opportunity and that Pears was ill? What was your first thoughts?
My initial thought was, we talked about it, hadn't we? I think after the Middlesbrough game, we'd said we can't really see him getting a run of games because Pears' injury record's been okay. So this was, I thought, you're not used to this, is right. You'll keep your shirt if you do okay. That was my initial thought. Yeah.
What about the rest of the starting lineup? Because obviously we had to make some changes. JRC, I mean, the first thing I saw when I saw JRC is we'd literally said on the Monday, he doesn't trust him in midfield, and I don't think we'll ever see him there again. And then suddenly he's popping up. Now that just shows the crisis we're in.
That was exactly it. I think I looked at it and I thought Joe Rankin Costello is probably 5th or 6th choice for Eustace in centre midfield. Doesn't want to play him there, but has looked at it and thought, well, Forshaw's legs won't last, and I've no other option. So in you go, Joe. Yeah. It was literally like we were. You've got people come round to your house and you're not expecting it, and they're staying for tea, and you're rooting around the freezer to see what you can shove on a plate.
So was he the Iceland turkey Twizzlers at the back of the freezer that he had to serve?
Yeah, let's go with that one. And there was a few that were reheated for the second time.
The thing is I was a big fan of JRC in midfield and JDT. I said, I mean, me, you, and Dan on the previous pod, we'd say, you know, where would you have JRC? Is it right wing, right back, centre mid? And I was one of the ones that was saying, I like him in centre mid, and then under Eustace, when he's played there, he hasn't played well, and actually his probably strongest position's been on the right, be it on the wing or at right back. So when I saw him there, I was actually thinking to myself, do you know what? This is a good opportunity now for you to come in and, you know, stake another claim. Same with Buckley. You know, you've got an opportunity here to stake a claim. And the first half, we were okay. I thought generally in the first half, we played quite well. Their keeper just turned on, you know, all his talent when he needed to. But I just thought we was unlucky in the first half. And I thought JRC was quite unlucky in the first half with a couple of things. What was your opinion, taking up to the 40th minute? What was your opinion of our first half performance?
I thought we were doing okay. I thought that Buckley did okay for me. Again, not quite as effective as he wasn't at Oxford. I thought JRC brought some energy, but I mean, me personally, I felt that his positional understanding of the game in the middle of the park is lacking a little bit. You've got to remember under Eustace, he played there quite a bit towards the end of last season. I think they played there at Leeds. He certainly played there at Leicester, didn't he? And then ever since the Blackpool game, it feels like this season in the Cup when he was horrific, but he wasn't on his own. He seems to have, that's it. Oh, that's it. He's never playing there again. And I thought he gave us some energy, which had been lacking a little bit. Gave us some legs in there. But the overriding thing for me was Gay. I thought, wow, the confidence this boy's now got. And I thought, oh, we've got Britain. We know we can deliver. We've got Beck on the pitch. We know Hedges can deliver. And Hedges looked like he got another yard of pace. The more I watch him, I think sometimes when he gets into his stride, he's actually quite quick. I think it's his acceleration that's not rapid. But when he gets in his stride, he's actually quite quick. And I thought, bloody hell, Hedges is going, right, this is a chance for me here. I'm going to really take this. Gay's doing the same. I thought, fair play to you. You know, and the rest were just going again, weren't they? It was another game for Bat to just go again. I am the same thing. So 40 minutes in, I thought Toth looked okay again. I was pretty comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going on Hedges, it was like he trusted his legs again because when you've had an injury and then you come back and you start running. Now we're obviously, much lesser level, but you don't quite open your legs as much. You don't quite when you go for a sprint, you don't quite gallop. And he did seem to trust his legs that little bit more.
Yeah, no, absolutely fair. And I thought Dolan's doing okay. Dolan was probably our most effective player, Gay aside. But most of the play was going through him. And yeah, I was relatively comfortable, albeit I didn't think we were cutting them open at will, were we?
No, we had our opportunities. I mean, some of the notes I made were, we haven't touched on the fact that Buckley was captain, which again is quite telling when you've got the likes of Hyam and Bat on the pitch. And you said yourself that, when you went to the John Eustace evening, he said that when Buckley doesn't say much, but when he does, people listen. And that was quite telling that they gave him the captain's armband. But yeah, going into the individual performance in the first half, notes a Gay, energetic start, showing some skill because he really did. And I love the fact that he said that he showed some confidence because he did. And it made me feel bad that I'd supported him for like 60% of the season and so far, and then suddenly I've started moaning at him and now he's coming good. It's like, why didn't I just stick with my initial thing of supporting him, because now I'll be really smug, because I did think he played well. Dolan did frustrate me at times. I have got a couple of notes that he did frustrate me because he got into Bidwell right at the start and then he seemed to be really he was playing like a petulant kid again, and I was like, I don't know where this has come from, because I think if you calm down, I think you'll play a lot better. But we was getting corners. Coventry, we're making plenty of saves, and I was quite happy with how things were going. And then Rovers being Rovers, we give away a corner and they score, and it happens to be the guy that hadn't scored much for them. Is it just a typical Rovers thing at the moment?
It didn't feel like it. No, I think the Oxford game was one of the first few, wasn't it, that we let ourselves down a little bit. I think Eustace has said something similar, and I think we've looked pretty solid. But what was noticeable then was I felt like the players' body language was really telling, because previously I think we've looked, it's not really affected us. We've been able to shake off disappointments quite well. And I thought it looked like a real, like a body punch in boxing where it just takes your soul away a little bit. And that told me that these are players, which isn't surprising, and we probably knew. These are players that are giving absolutely everything, and probably knew they didn't have that much in the tank to go again. So they were probably hoping that they get a clean sheet and then work from that basis. And that was the same when the second half started. I thought they looked, for the first time, probably this season, I think we've looked like a team that didn't believe they could come back into the game.
Yeah, they looked absolutely shattered, and I agree. I mean, the goal came quite quick, obviously, and it was like, I mean, if we were still doing Hitch's bets, I think you would have put your mortgage on the fact that Brandon Thomas Asante was going to get a goal, and obviously he did. I mean, I'm going to get into Toth with the first goal at the end, so don't. I'm not just skipping over the goal. I am going to talk about that one. But I just want to talk about it as a whole. But yeah, second half, we looked tired. The confidence just seemed to completely drain. And like you said, it was like the players, it was like a sense of inevitability because they knew that they only had so much. And, like we've said, if you're starting a journey, you don't start with 50% of fuel. You fill her up, and you could just tell the lads started that game and they just had the foot on the gas. It didn't work out. They were just completely sapped of energy, and it just came away and away. And Gay got some chances, but we found ourselves in a hole, and our players were dropping down. We had injuries come in. Callum Britton went off at half time. which again, everyone's just looking at each other, just thinking, why is this happening? Because he's such an important player for us. And everyone was just really disappointed. And for the first time, I'd say under Eustace, but definitely this season, for the first time, I just knew the game was over. And I haven't felt like that much under Eustace. And I think that just says a lot for the situation that we found ourselves in.
Completely agree. I thought we made, was it 4 subs, wasn't it, on about the 57th, 58th minute? It didn't look like we'd really changed personnel at all. There was no impact from it. I was disappointed with the subs when they came on. There was no freshness to them. And there probably should have been, considering the amount of minutes some of them have played. And then as the game went on, it became not comical, but it was just becoming like someone was pranking us, wasn't it? You're like, what's happening next? And then they just dropped like flies. And I got angrier and angrier as the game went on. And not at anybody on the pitch, not at anybody in the dugout. I just became really, really frustrated that I've said this term a few times, but I've seen this episode before. And I just felt so let down for us as fans, but for them. I talked last week about how transfers work. I've talked about how the club are working and what they want to do. But there's an element where you've got to be reactive, and you've got to be reactive to a situation. And we've been that. So we've brought Dion Sanderson in. Baker's gone out. We brought Forshaw in. And I appreciate we've not got money everywhere, but they must be having conversations with Eustace, who's having conversations with the sports science team, who's turning around and saying, Owen Beck couldn't even play at weekend because he's exhausted. He can probably play 20 minutes. Pickering's not back till the end of March. And there needs to be a real honest conversation about what do we want? What do we want from this season? Because if we just want to survive, we've pretty much done that. That's fine. If we want to have a real pop at the playoffs, then we're not showing that, are we? So you can come out and say whatever they want to say. Now, they've never come out and said they want to get in the playoffs. The players have. Eustace has made noises towards it, and so they should with the position they're going to be in. But they've kind of left it now at a stage where they're almost, I know we're only 7th, and it sounds like we're overreacting. And from an outsider looking in, they'll go, you're in a great position. You're overachieving. Yeah, we probably are. But I just feel really sorry and let down for the players as much as anything, and for Eustace, because they're now being asked to carry on the impossible because they've not got the tools to do the job. And it's like we're almost, it's like when somebody steps into the breach in a job and, somebody else leaves and you kind of go, do you know what, I'll cover their duties for a bit. And then now it's like somebody else has left and you've gone, just do that one as well. And like they're just being taken advantage of. And it's not good enough. It really isn't. And what it's done is the good feeling around the club, the good feeling, not towards the players, that's still there. The good feeling towards Eustace is still there. But the good feeling and the optimism, again, we've been suckered in. I didn't think, oh my God, we're definitely going to go up. But I thought, well, there's a chance here. And I've actually got something that I can get behind. This group of players, this manager, I've got something I can get behind here. And now I feel like the rug has been pulled from under us yet again. And they've got, 7 days now to do something about that. And I don't think just signing a striker and a winger is going to do that now. I think we now need some depth as well because we're so short, because the players have been milk dry, haven't they? Let's be honest.
Exactly, and we all came out with emotions after this game. Like I said, I'd tweeted, and there was a few people. I mean, like I said, most people agreed with what I was saying. There was a few people that questioned it, and I clarified my what I meant on our X at Blackburn End Pod. And I did a little screenshot of it was like a statement that I'd put. I just wanted to clarify because I wanted to know other people's thoughts as well, so we could talk about it here. Yeah. And it was about the strength and conditioning. It was about the squads and so on. And I summarised it with it does feel like Groundhog Day. Every January, February, we're discussing the same issues as fans. And I said, we're fans. Me and you are fans. You know, I know you've got the stuff that you do, and you know, with the forum, but generally we are fans. We're not pundits. As much as I coach and stuff like that, I'm not a professional. I'm not in their situation. But so everything that we do, we try and stay calm, cool, collected, and make an informed opinion. But right now, we're emotional fans, and we can't be journalists and pundits with it. We are going to react, and my reaction is just to have a moan at the owners, because there is something not right there. We've tried to defend them, we've tried to explain, and I ended it with, ultimately, I'm delighted with where we are in the league with Eustace and most of the players, but we can see some real potential here for us to crack on to the next level, and we just seem to be missing something. And that statement, I can say that every single year since the Venkies took over. We get to a period where the lack of investment, the lack of depth really shines through. And it's been since we've been in the EFL, obviously, which is a very busy time. It's Saturday, Tuesday, all the way through. And you need to be prepared. So that could be bringing in the right players. It could be strengthening, conditioning the players. It could be coaching the players. It could be adding players, all of this. And one thing I did add, you know, which was further to that, and this was after the Bristol game, I said, owners can't run football clubs like a business. They're a passion project. They are a money pit, and you can't expect a return. Venkies either need to fund us or find someone to take us on. We can't have another wasted opportunity to progress. And that's how I felt after the Coventry game, before the Bristol game, and definitely after the Bristol game. We have an opportunity every single year to build. And we're seeing time and time again these opportunities get wasted. Now, I don't want us to go too far ahead, because we've got quite a lot of questions in the mailbag that I want to get to. But we were very, very passionate after this game, weren't we? We was having conversations, and we put ourselves out there on this channel. And I'll be honest, I feel like a mug. I really do. I feel like a mug for putting myself out there to talk Rovers. I know you feel the same. And you do feel like they're sticking two fingers up at the fan base sometimes by not investing this money.
100% agree with what you'd said about you can't run a football club like a business. Well, you can, but if that's what they're doing, then losing money is not. That's not running it like a business, really, is it? It's managers and players are in football, most of them, to win. And Eustace will come, Eustace will go. Players will come, players will go. And if they're not being given the tools and the opportunity to be successful here, they will move on. And ultimately, they'll look after themselves. You know, Eustace will get to a point with Rovers and he'll say, do you know what? My stock's really high. It can only go down from here because I'm not being given the tools, or I can't take this club any further. Even if by some miracle it got promoted, that potentially could happen at some point. So I kind of part that a little bit. However, that must be bloody frustrating. If you go to work every day and actually you're not building towards something, your motivation goes, you what's the point?
And these guys are ambitious, aren't they? They're ambitious people,
yeah.
Footballers and managers.
So I think if we're being honest, the players will be self-motivated, and a lot of it will be about promoting themselves. You know, Campbell's motivation to come to Rovers, as much as he will try and get us promoted or whatever, if we're being honest, whether, you know, Venki's invested or not, is all around getting his numbers up, getting his name out there, getting himself back into the Premier League or wherever. Fine, because then you're both successful, aren't you? If that works, you're both successful. We know that happens. But as a supporter, you've got to have hope. That's what you live off. And this is when I get really frustrated when you're in the Premier League and we have Big Sam. And you go to Man United, and actually it's about trying to not get beat 7-1. And ultimately we did. People go to Man City and they go, oh, if we lose, not now. But they were going, weren't they? And defended. Benitez did it once and said, well, you know, we just don't want to hurt our goal difference too much. And if it's 2-0 to them, we'll take that. That's not football. As a fan, I want to have hope. I want to turn up every week and go, as blind as it might be, I could see a way we can nick this today. I'm rapidly losing hope every January. And then, I do have my stuff with the forum, and I love doing it, and I love helping the club in whatever way, because I love the club. So we will have to sit in about a month's time and talk about our potential kit ideas for 26-27. We'll talk about all manner of things, and they'll go in the minutes, and people will give us absolute loads of stick because they were saying, well, that's not the big issue. Why are you talking about kits? Why are you talking about... Because we talk about the whole experience. Fine, I get all of that. But I come to football, one, because it's just what you do, and it becomes a habit. But I come because I need to have hope. And I come going, well, if we go and beat Preston, and then we do this, and then we do that, and sat here, right now, I have zero hope, and we're 7th in the league, zero hope that we can get in the playoffs. I can't see a way it happens right now. And that is what is happening year in, year out. And that is what I feel has been taken away from us. It's that hope. And they might be running it like a business, but whatever their rhymes or reason is, they've taken the hope away. And that's difficult to do. And that's the most upsetting thing for me.
And I know we're not the only club in this situation. There's loads of clubs in this situation. And I think it's just modern football and where it's going. I mean, I got really triggered with Steve Ogrizovic on with something that got shared. He was doing the Coventry commentary, and he had a little rant about Ewood being empty, saying it's a disgrace that the club, disgrace that the fans are not turning up to support their club, and disgrace that we only won the championship not long ago, and that we can't turn up to support a club. And it was actually quite damning what he was saying. I was absolutely triggered by that, and it really irritated me. But we're being pushed away as fans by the owners, but also just with how football has gone. You know, it's not a pleasurable experience to go to games as much as it used to be. You know, it used to be you finish work, you'd get some tea, you'd go straight down. It would be 5-10 quid a ticket max. You'd have a pint in your hand, maybe a pie. You'd meet your mates, you'd stand there, you'd support the lads, you go home. You know, and that was it. But the world's changed. Everyone has jobs, cost of living crisis. Let's be honest, Blackburn isn't the most affluent area. You've got lots of towns close by. You've got 2 major cities close by. You know, you go around and you see more Liverpool and Man City shirts than Blackburn shirts in the town. You know, that's not necessarily the owner's fault per se. It's just the way modern football's gone, and we absolutely hate it. I mean, we're getting off topic a little bit, but we are we may as well carry on this rant.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's just the way it's gone, isn't it?
It is. But on that, this is where I feel so sorry for some of the people at the club. So they are employees, and a lot of them support the club as well, and they are. So there's people who work in the ticket office. A lot of them are Rovers fans, and they're doing their job to the best of their ability. Can you imagine if you were the marketing team? You can only do so much. The best marketing is what's happening on the pitch. We've seen against the Dingles, the fan base is still there to some extent. Now, Tuesday night, it's cold. Like you said, people travel to work now that they probably never used to. It's been Christmas. There's a busy period. We've had games against Leeds. We've had all these expensive games. Rovers, £10 a ticket. Bring a friend for a tenner. Cannot fault the club for that. What a really good initiative. They marketed it. You can't really ask for any more of elements of the club for that. Now, that's not the owners. They might have sanctioned it, but that's people working in the club that have recognised what we've been saying, what the fans are all saying, that it's Tuesday night, it's on Sky, people can just go and watch it. They could probably go and watch it at the pub. So I was a little bit surprised that the attendance was what it was. However, some of that comes down to people go because they want to believe in something, whereas it feels like a bit of a chore going on a midweek game, particularly. It feels like this is hard work. Now, you should support your club come hell or high water. I understand that. I didn't actually go to the game. I wasn't feeling very well. I watched it on telly. But I wasn't absolutely gutted like I would be normally. And that wasn't because I didn't think, we weren't going to win or anything. It's just not unmissable, is it? And it all comes down to that hope for me, that turning up and going, I can see there's a way of winning today. And right now, sat here, it's Monday night. We've got Preston on Friday. I'm not looking forward to it.
No.
And that's mental. A Friday night game against, not rivals, but a local team. They're bringing a local fans.
Derby.
Should be a good atmosphere.
It is a local derby.
And right here, right now, result even aside, I'm not going, I can't wait for Friday. Whereas once over, I'd have been buzzing about that. I'll go, but I'm not. It's not unmissable. It's not, oh my God, I can't wait.
Well, let's quickly polish off the Coventry game, and then we'll get on to the Bristol game, and then we'll shed a little tear, have a little cry together, and then we'll get back to our ranting. So I'm going to quickly talk about Toth. I know a lot of people were interested. We had a couple of messages asking, because I'm no expert in goalkeepers at all. I don't claim to be. I coach them, but it doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. They could all absolutely hate me and think I'm useless. So let's talk about. So the notes I made quite a lot of notes. The first thing is he holds himself with a lot of confidence. You could tell he played in the Euro conference qualifiers this year, so obviously he's used to playing in games of stature. But you could tell he had confidence. You could tell that the players seem to trust him way more than what they do with pairs. They were letting the ball run through to him. They knew he was going to be there. He was going to deal with it. He was good with his feet. His communication, I could hear him at times, and he seemed like he was communicating, which was really good. There was a couple of corners, and they just seemed to be peppering him. Just keep putting them on, but he was dealing with them. He was punching them. Now that leads to the goal. So the ball comes in, he punches it. Now this is a modern goalkeeper thing. Interestingly, I played last night, and I come, and my first thing is to catch the ball no matter what. And if I drop it, I drop it. If I don't, I don't. But that's the way I was brought up. I was brought up, do not punch, always catch. Now I'm playing at a level where it doesn't matter if I drop one and it goes in. No one's going to, I'll have my mates and stuff have a go at me. In fact, I actually, in the interest of clarity, I actually dropped an absolute clanger last night. I had a ball batted to me from 20 yards. It was coming straight to me. I got the basket ready for the ball to come into, and the ball dipped suddenly, hit me on the arm and went in off the post. The pelters I got off everyone, it was unreal. They were like shouting, saying, "Don't you analyse goalkeepers and stuff?" And they just gave me pelters. Luckily, I've made up for it later on, but still. But anyway, back to Toth, who everyone wants to hear about. So the goal. Yes, he punched it. I thought it was a decent punch. It got some distance. But now the question is the ball coming back in. So the ball coming back in, curled away from him, and he came. So he's come. He's given it the Schmeichel spread. Ellis Sims has then got the header, and it's gone through his arms and into the goal. So it looks bad. It looks bad from the lane from the outside looking in. Now to break it down, JRC ducks out of the way. That's the first thing. He made it far too easy for Ellis Sims to get over him and get the header. Now, Sims is a big lad, but JRC isn't tiny. I think he should have put up more of a fight. Now, the one thing Toth probably should have done is when he knew he wasn't getting the ball was actually just take a strong step, get yourself back. And to be honest, chances are that ball's just straight into his hands. So this has been super
harsh and overly critical. He probably should have just retreated when you know you're not going to get it. Instead of just making a start and hoping for the best, he probably should have just planted his foot and reset his stance. He had enough time to do that because you can tell he made the move. Then he took a step then to make himself bigger and come out. I think it was a little bit of a rush of blood because he'd had a decent half. And really, as soon as he made that step, he should have planted and come back. But that was being harsh. Rest of the game, nothing he could do with the goal. But I don't think he ended up having much to do second half, did he? I don't remember.
Not loads,
I think after the goal, it was kind of game over, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're far more qualified than me, Mike, to analyse him. I felt he coped really well with that aerial bombardment from the corners where they were putting it on him and they were trying to be physical. I thought, if anything, if I was being super critical, I thought there was a couple of times he looked eager to impress, which worries me with keepers. I like it when they're not. And I think that probably happened with the goal a bit. It was a little bit of ball watching, but it was kind of that, no, I'm going to get it. And then, oh no, rather than, I don't think that was necessarily his normal game. I think he was eager to impress, trying to take his chance. And that just worries me a little bit with keepers sometimes. I think they can try too hard. But yeah,
definitely in that situation as well, where he hasn't had a chance to play.
And let's be honest, he found out at the team meeting, which was 2 hours before kickoff, that he was playing. So yeah, so
mentally he's not necessarily prepared. I mean, the one thing I will say, and it'd be interesting your view on this. When I saw Volstead, I didn't get the same vibes from Volstead that I get from Toth. I feel like Toth he just seems to exude a little bit more confidence. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he seems more solid and more comfortable in his own skin. I get the feeling Toth backs himself in sort of not an arrogant way, but just thinks, yeah, I can play here. And I should be playing. Whereas Volstead, it was more a potential thing, wasn't it? You could see, but it was very raw. I think Toth does all the basics well. It's how much beyond that he can then do for us. Whereas Volstead was a bit more erratic.
Well, we might see Toth again in the not too distant future. We'll obviously discuss after the Bristol game in a second. So let's move on to the Bristol game. Before we do, was there any three-word reviews that were your favourite?
There's quite a few 3-word reviews. I've edited most of them out, Mike. I'm going to go with Adam Soares, Eustace needs help. And that summed up how I was feeling. Yeah.
To be honest, it sums up a lot of the messages on the full-time X from the Rovers. I mean, a lot of people saying the owners are killing the club. A lot of things I can't actually repeat. And there's people saying it was a bad day at the office. Where's the passion or desire? Not sure. And then there's people saying I'm not sure what everyone expects. I'm not sure even Eustace isn't surprised after that. The lads are absolutely on their arse. I just think generally everyone is pointing the fingers at the same things, people, and pointing out the same things. There's nothing new, really, from what they're saying.
No, and I think if this just happened for the first time this year, then you can look at Eustace, you can look at the sports scientists, you can look at that, and only that. When this has happened and the same thing is being said, I need help and the players need help, by probably the third manager now, because of Mowbray said the same, that tells me that, and the same thing's happening on the pitch, we're getting injuries, we're struggling for results, we're looking exhausted, that tells me that it's a bigger problem than any one individual, particularly anybody near a dugout and on a pitch.
Well, like we said in our earlier rants, if it's happening every single year, if it looks like a duck and we're in a situation now where, it's not looking good. And we move on to the Bristol game now. I'm not going to ask you if you was happy with the performance. I think it's pretty obvious. We moved on to the Bristol game and we saw a different formation. We saw a little bit of rotation, and we saw a pretty inept performance from a lot of people. What did you think of the formation change?
It told me all I needed to know about. I mean, well, obviously we had the miraculous recovery of Britain, Bat, and JRC, and it told me all I needed to know that actually they were nowhere near fit. He's clearly protecting Danny Bat. Britain, ironically, playing wing back probably doesn't have to do quite as much running because at right back he's basically a wing back, but he has to get even further back. But when I watched Monday Night Football a few weeks ago, Jamie Carragher did a really, really in-depth piece. Now, he does some things I don't agree with, but he did a really in-depth piece around Amorim and the 3-4-3 formation. And when it's worked well and when it hasn't. And I've got that in my mind, and I've watched it, and I've agreed with most of what he's saying. And he talked about the only way that formation works is if your midfield two are so full of energy and legs that they can get up and down. And when your back three are willing to step out and close that gap. Otherwise, if you don't have one of them, or you certainly don't have both, you've got a problem. Now, the option we obviously went for, we have Buckley, who's not renowned for his up and down midfield style, and Forshaw obviously isn't. So that rules that one out. What we have tried to do is our defenders were trying to step out and get really close to Bristol's players and close that gap. And within, 14 minutes, we have two of the centre halves booked. So then that scuppers your plan, because you can't any longer do that. So I was then thinking at that point, we might have a problem here. I actually don't think the system caused us as many problems as it could have done after that. I think considering the lack of mobility in midfield and considering the lack of, we've not played it, have we? Bat wasn't here last year. Sanderson wasn't here. So we've not played it with them. I thought the players did a really admirable job of trying to make a game of it, considering there's no way Callum Britton should have been on that pitch. There's no way Danny Bart should have been on that pitch, and two or three others.
Well, no, exactly. Well, it was interesting that. I mean, when I saw the formation, I agree. I think it said everything we need to know, that we had to change it, and it was like we needed to hold. I mean, let's listen to our initial match reaction. It's not quite as long as the last one, but it's still over 2 minutes. But yeah, it's another miserable one.
What are we going to do? We looked vulnerable at the back today. Pears, you might say it's his fault, you might not, but soft goals conceded. Thought we looked slightly better going forward, but poor final decisions, poor final balls yet again. Referee, I'm just going to briefly mention him, seemed to only have a yellow card for us, which I don't think made a massive difference, but you never know, it might have made us a bit more wary of going for the ball, but we need to dip into that transfer market and fast. I thought Gay had another decent game. I thought Britain had another decent game. I thought Hedges did all right. But you just can't see as to where we're going to turn it around right now, can we? Good to see Travis get back on the pitch, but I'm not looking forward to Friday, if I'm being honest. But as always, mate, we'll break it down and we'll try and find some positives.
Oh, mate, if I could just send a minute voice note of me sighing, I would. But, mate, it's frustrating. I mean, at the end of the day, mate, we're not pundits, we're not journalists, we're a couple of fans that like talking Rovers. We follow the club, we love everything about them, but when it's like this, it's so frustrating because we can see the obvious issues. We can see the fact that we have a lot of potential to crack on. Every single season, we see potential, we don't. And we seem to then take a backward step. It's like one step forward, two steps back all the time. And this game is no different. I mean, Pearce for the first goal obviously made a mistake. I think he was afraid of the post or something. But yeah, it's just, we need signings, we need quality. We need owners that are willing to actually invest in the club, as in from the playing staff. I understand what they do in the background, but we need players and we need them now, because otherwise we're just going to get dragged into another second half of the season where we're worried about going down again. I I think I've had enough of it. I know you have. I know the fans have. Something needs to change because today, once again, I feel super flat, and it's becoming too regular now.
Okay, so there's a regular theme here for the two reactions we've done and what we've discussed during the pod so far. I came away from this one and I was scratching my head. I thought, I mean, these are the same players that we were singing praises of not long ago, and it just shows that they need reinforcements. They need someone to help them. They need a rest. As much as professional footballers are paid a serious amount of money, they're human beings and they can't keep playing over and over again. You mentioned it about Eustace, the fact that, you know, he should rotate. We've got a really good youth system. Why not just give someone a chance? You know, why not, you know, let someone just have a break and bring someone else in? Why is it taking injuries and suspensions for Buckley to come in and play in JRC? You know, we should have been doing this beforehand, and this game for me was no different. The first goal I thought was pretty poor from Pears. I'll get into that. And I'll be honest, I was stunned that we equalised because I just felt like the game was just done after 12 minutes. You know, like you say, we got the early yellow cards. We can talk about the ref in a bit. But again, I mean, Dolan was doing my head in again. I know I'm a broken record with that, and I don't want it to be the new Sam Gallagher, but he really frustrated me. There was times where his football intelligence it just was not there, and I was getting frustrated with him because we wasn't getting opportunities. Then we had the embarrassing moment where we had with the offside, which wasn't offside, that could have been offside, where there was 3-on-1. We was gifted the ball, and then we just looked embarrassing there, and it just looked terrible. It looked terrible, and I just didn't feel like we was going to get anything out of the game, and I was really surprised when we equalised. I mean, what was your summing up of the first half?
Very similar. I was getting frustrated at the referee at the time. His cards were only for them, and I think that did affect us. They were on the floor all the time. But yeah, you're right. Dolan was really, really frustrating this time in particular. I felt a bit sorry for him recently. I think he's been taken off at times when he's been doing okay. Whether that's a fatigue issue, I don't know. But he frustrated me in this game, and then produces something that I didn't know he had in his locker, where he just gets down the line and crosses a great ball.
That's the simplified game we've been asking for him to do, isn't it?
And what a ball it was. A great ball. Buckley summed up Buckley for me. He did 2 or 3 things in that first half that nobody else, probably not even Tronstad, can do. Just where he reads the game, but then wins the ball and a good little ball off, and away we go. And then he can't play a 5-yard ball. And I don't know whether he's. I've had a conversation with one of my friends, and he said, "Do you think it's a lack of confidence? Do you think it's that he's not played many games?" I said, "Well, not now. He's played 5 games or so now. He's not overly played recently. But he's played. He's played 5 in a period of time. He's a professional footballer, so he's training every day. He's not carrying an injury, it doesn't look like. So actually, I don't think he can use the match fitness. I think he should be up to speed now. And I just don't know sometimes if he's too nonchalant, if he's too laid back, almost the stuff that's just too easy to him. He doesn't, a bit like we were talking about with Toth, how he looked comfortable with the simple stuff. Buckley looks more comfortable with the things that are more difficult. And he frustrated me because he's got a chance of really not nailing a shirt down here. I thought Callum Britton, I love Callum Britton ability-wise. I think he's been amazing this year. But Callum Britton and Danny Bart, to go off the pitch the other day, and JLC to be fair, but them two because of the efforts they put in recently, to go off the pitch the other day, clearly should have been nowhere near this pitch, have probably taken painkillers, have been on a foam roller for hours in a cryotherapy chamber. Whatever they have done to get out on that pitch, I thought they were unbelievable. And I sort of don't want to detract from anybody's performance. I think the effort those players put in to get the game as close as it was actually said all you need to know about their belief in the manager and their belief together. And I just feel so let down for them. So let down.
Yeah, Britain had a great game. I mean, he was pulling some tricks. He was megging players. He was getting up and down the line. He was getting the ball in.
Yeah.
He was supporting Dolan where he could, and obviously later in the game, I mean, he played the full. I mean, they played the full 90 minutes. I mean,
yeah,
absolute monsters, and fair play to them. The trouble is when you're in a situation like we're in, where you've got injuries, you've got tired players, you're rotating quite a bit. You need everyone to not necessarily be perfect, but don't do anything silly. And Pears turns up and does Pears things from last year before, and I was shocked by it, to be honest. I didn't expect to see it. I thought, I'll be honest, I thought we was done with the silliness from Pears. And to go with what you said earlier about players sometimes coming in and trying too much, especially from a goalkeeper, it felt like that when he came out to the edge of the area and just put himself in no man's land. Something we've seen against Plymouth, and we've seen a couple of times where he's got lobbed. And if it wasn't for Super Callum Britton getting back to the line, he would have looked really stupid again. So we needed players to be on it. I know you wasn't happy with Dion Sanderson. Do you want to quickly give us a quick review on how he played?
Listen, the lad's not played much football. It's his first time coming into the team. He's playing on the right-hand side of a centre-half 3. He's playing next to Callum Britton, who's not fit, but had a stormer. He's playing next to Danny Bath, who's not fit. He gets an early booking. He's playing in front of Pears, who's having like a flashback to last season Pears game. So there's loads of mitigating circumstances, but I just felt his touch looked pretty poor. I thought if the signs weren't great, I thought he looked very clumsy on and off the ball. Yeah.
He definitely seems like someone that needs, like you say, a bit of time. I think there's something there with his passion, his size, his physicality, and you can tell he will be really useful. But I mean, it's not hard, like you say. I mean, it's very hard in January to find someone that you can get quickly, get them on loan with not much, and have them have quality. It's rare. It's rare you're going to get that, and you can tell why Blues have loaned him to us. But he didn't have the greatest of games.
No, and he's coming in as probably fourth choice. All right, if he gets gets in the team and does well, he'll keep his shirt. But he's not playing much football, has it? Now I go right back to Van Heck, who's now playing in the Premier League in a really good team. Looked erratic, looked raw, looked too eager to impress. All the things, look clumsy on the ball, all the things that I'm saying about Sanderson. So I'm not writing him off. I just thought that's probably the last thing we needed was a player that's needing nursing through a game. In some ways, I needed somebody. It's a lot to ask, isn't it? But you needed like another Danny Bart to come in and just be chill out. It's all right. I've got this.
And we've got lucky with Danny Bart. I didn't expect this from him.
No.
I mean, we talked about it. It was like it seemed like it was a McFadden style signing, just a little bit younger. But like I just said, you need everyone firing on all cylinders. When you're in this situation, when I say firing on all cylinders, I mean mentally. Like, don't make silly mistakes. Try and do the simple things right, and hopefully we can get through. The free kick goes in. Let me break that down from my opinion. So my opinion, a lot of people were just straight away like, "What's Pears doing?" And I'm part of that group. He made the perfect. He had the good stance. He didn't make a step to his left, so it wasn't like he was out of position. The ball wasn't hit too hard. And what it reminded me of, when we won the Premier League, just to remind everyone we did win the Premier League, but against Liverpool, Do you remember the free kick against Flowers? I feel it reminded me of that, but worse. So I always felt like Flowers should have saved that, and he seemed worried about either diving into the post or thought it was going wide. And this had that feeling for me. He seemed to make the step and he dived towards the post. Now, normally, you don't dive actually towards the post. You do it slightly in front, or if you're slightly behind, but your hands are in front. But it seemed like he put his head right towards the post and then basically shit himself and just didn't do anything. So, yes, it was a mistake from Pears. He made his first step. We call it a power step, basically. So when you angle your foot and you make that dive, so you make a step, then it's a power step, and then you make the dive. Everything was there. He was there. The hands were there. His body was there. And then he just was like, oh, damn, I'm going to hit the post here, and just didn't do anything.
So 2 things. One, I know we're searching for positives, but you've just managed to compare Ainsley Pears to Tim Flowers. I mean, unbelievable work. But 2, I've seen this.
Mad.
I've seen this from Ainsley Pears before. Do you remember Wigan away?
Yeah.
And
his positioning by the post isn't very good, is it?
And in goes the ball. And I'm not going to lie. And if they see this, they'll probably love it. But the fact it was a dingle as well. Come on, Ainsley.
I know.
Oh.
I know. No. As soon as I saw his name, I
was nailed on, wasn't it? Nailed on.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a mistake. There's no bones about it. He should have done better. It was a good free kick over the wall. The positioning of the ball was really good. But at that pace and with Pears' positioning, he should have saved that. The rush of blood to the head's come to the edge of the area. He's been bitten with that a couple of times now last season. And to do that to this season, after the season he's had so far, I was very disappointed. And I'm just glad Callum Britton was there. And the second goal, he got pelters for it, but it was deflected. There was nothing he could really do about that one. He'd obviously read the ball and made the dive and putting himself out of position. So I can't really have a go in for that. But yeah, he just generally looked ropey. And it goes back to what you said about goalkeepers trying too hard. And the one thing I'm starting to see from Pears is when he's put under duress, he doesn't react too well. So when he's had a good amount of form, I think he's okay. But to return to a game after Toth had played, he might have been playing on his mind a little bit. Last year with Sheffield Wednesday, very important game. He didn't do well. And there's been other times where when he's actually in relatively important games, he makes these mistakes and makes these errors. So, yeah, a little bit disappointed with him. I don't think it's nothing droppable. You can't drop him. No. It's hopefully just a drop in, drop in the ocean with it, and that he carries on the form he's shown all season. But it was worrying.
Yeah, I think we've got to give him, he's had a really good season. I think the fact that Eustace has put him straight back in after Toth did okay tells me a lot. And you've got to remember, Ainsley Pears was playing on Tuesday until about 2 hours before kickoff, and he's that unwell he then can't play a football game. So he's clearly not going to be 100% for this game either, is he? So,
no.
Yeah, I'm willing to let this one slide.
The only trouble is now is to have a game like this and then go to the Preston game where they're known for just dumping it on the keeper time and time and time again.
Yeah,
I'm now concerned that he's everything just with us at the moment. It's just bad timing. Anytime we get injuries, we've got another big game coming. And now we've got another one where they love to batter the goalkeeper, get it on. And that's my only concern.
Well, my concern is the fact that we play Preston all the time at the worst run of form we can ever have.
Yeah.
And I've got a number of concerns, I'll be honest. They're packing out that end. Fine, should be a good atmosphere, but yeah, for all the reasons you're saying. And the fact that striker is going to be playing that is hungry for goals, shall we say, is he's going to score, isn't he? Yeah.
Well, let's quickly just round this Bristol game off and then we'll get on to that. So is there anyone you want to pick out as particularly good, bad, indifferent?
I'm just going to say Andy Vyman. He's there all the time. You know, and Gay, because that counts as another goal involvement for Gay. He's at 9 for the season now. Yeah. You can say what you want about them. Oh, how's that another assist for Gay? You know, we've heard that 2 or 3 times. Oh, he's going to get an assist for the one that hits his foot and backheeled to Beck that time. But they can't all be luck, can they? You know, I heard some people saying, "Oh, he should have scored." I thought he did everything right. Gay and Vyman, I think, and Hedges. I'm going to say Britain. I kind of just got over because it's Britain, but I thought Hedges had another decent game. I think at left wing back is probably his best position. But I thought Vyman once again showed he's just a goal threat. And playing in that 10, I think he gives us more goal threat certainly than Cantwell. And then I thought it was another decent performance from Gay, which is kind of what we needed because let's be honest, he's the only one we've got right now.
Well, this is the strange thing: is when you're absolutely knackered, when you it's not working for you, just lump it in the box and let someone go and attack it. And that's his forte. And this is what we said at the start, you know, perfect plan B. If it's not working, lump it in for the big man. He's willing to put his body in the line. He's everything. He does everything that we wanted Sam Gallagher to do. But yet we're still not doing it on, you know, regularly. And it's, enough. I don't know whether it's a stubbornness to not want to do it. But Dolan, we've asked him, simplify your game. Well, what happens? Simplifies it, knocks it wide, knocks it in. Gay goes, wins it. Yes, okay, it's the post, but it's an opportunity to get a goal, and we get the goal. You know, it happened the other week. Even the Coventry game, it was happening. You know, if we've got a big lad there that's willing to put his body on the line, just do it now and again. Give him something different to think about. And yeah, I mean, I said that he was a make-a-wish player, and I think that when we're not playing into his strengths, he struggles. But when we do play to his strengths, he looks a player. And like you said, he's gaining a bit of confidence, and he looks like there's a few things he's doing that's improving. So I might be back on the Gay train. I'm not sure. I'm not sure just yet. Vyman, quality. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect this from Vyman. Similar to the Danny Back kind of signing, I didn't expect him to be really contributing like he is. I think he does. He seems to be getting opportunities to have a rest a lot more than other players, and I think that's helping him. But yeah, I thought he did well. But I know that there's one person that just hates Bristol, and that is Hyam, because he did make a couple of mistakes. He missed a couple of clearances, and we got away with them. He doesn't like Bristol, does he?
Do you know what? I think I've said this numerous times now. I feel sorry for Dom Hyam when he's playing on the left-hand side of defence. I think he really, really struggles. I've never actually noticed the defender struggle quite as much moving from right to left-hand side. I think he really struggles. I think his performance dips. And in this game, he's then playing left-hand side of a 3, so he's even wider. And I just think Dom Hyam really struggles with that. So I am putting it down to nothing other than that. He did a job for the team. Fine.
I agree. So, any 3-word reactions you're happy with?
There's an awful lot, again, funnily enough, Mike, that I can't read out. Most are centred around, as you will imagine, a very similar theme to Coventry. But yeah, we've got... do you know what? I'm just going to use Owen Charnley's. So the negative he's put is board's neglect showing. But he's managed to find a positive, that the playoffs are still reachable.
They certainly are, but whether we're going to be in them after the next game, I'm not sure. So I'm not going to read out the responses on the full-time post because... yeah, it's all the same stuff. So there's no point. I think we're all on the same page as fans. Some a little bit more negative than others. But we now go into the Preston game at home on Friday. What do we need to do now to get a win in this game?
My concern is that he's going to start Travis when he's nowhere near fit. I worry about that. But that's his decision. To get a win, we need to keep a clean sheet. Simple. We haven't got more than one goal in us, I don't think. I hope I'm jinxing it. I hope we win 4-1. But I've seen this from Rovers before. I've seen this from Rovers in January before. I've seen this from Rovers against Preston before. They've got a horrible striker who shouldn't be anywhere near the pitch who's going to score against us. But if we can keep him, I'm going to say keep him quiet. If we can just stop them scoring, then I fancy us to nick one. But if we don't win 1-0, we ain't going to win the game. You?
No, there's definitely going to be a lot of bite in this game, to excuse the pun. I think we're going to go for the same formation that we saw against Bristol. I think he's going to look for the three at the back, pairs in goal, just sit back and just soak anything up that comes our way, but let everyone else bomb forward. I think it's going to be very similar to the Bristol game. I think it's going to be very similar. I do think he's going to put Travis in for Forshaw. I thought Forshaw played okay, but I can see maybe Buckley and Travis being in that middle two. And I agree with you. I don't think it should happen, but I think that's what he's probably going to look at.
I could see a 4 at the back. I could, but I actually think he will play the same formation. I agree with you. And I think he'll play a wing back on the left-hand side of the front three.
Yeah, I can see that. I think Gay's starting.
Yeah, I like that there as well.
Yeah, I do. I think he's got a lot of talent going forward. The only thing he needs to do is stop pulling shirts. It does my head in. Because, I mean, as much as I know there's a time to do it, he does it all the time, and he's just going to get himself sent off for doing something stupid.
Yeah, and that's a worry in this game because he's bound to be wound up for it. But I like him going forward. I think he's got a directness, he's got a quickness to his game as well, and ironically, complete opposite to Dolan. He can simplify his game at times, and he can be a bit of a goal threat. I could see him dinking some balls in. I think he makes people commit because he's very direct with his running, and Preston's fullbacks are poor. So, yeah. Simple.
Well, I don't think we should really go too much in depth into this one because I just don't. I think we're at a point now of the season, which, like we say, we have every single season where we just don't know who the starting line is going to be. We don't know who we're going to have through the door. I'm pretty confident no one's leaving, but we get so many injuries. It's not about who's leaving; it's about who's fit. It'll be interesting to see if we do get some players through the door, but if they do, I can't see them starting. So I just hope we're going to get something positive out of this game because I don't think my mental state as a fan can take it. Another performance where we just because they've come to our place before and got great results and it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is because they're not a good team either.
No.
I'm really hoping it's a competitive game. An early goal for them could really turn things sour on and off the pitch. But I think if we can keep it nice and tight, lots of night games always feel a bit better, don't they? A bit of blood and thunder. Let's add that into the game. Maybe a dodgy refereeing decision, nothing horrific, but just to get the crowd up a bit and just give us some energy, some life back into the place. And a bit of not even positivity, really, just a bit of energy into the ground. Because I think we're all feeling the same right now. And the players don't deserve that. The players deserve us to be on the top of our game because they are giving it absolutely everything they've got. And it's just hard, isn't it, to motivate yourself? And it must be really hard for them. It must be. They must be deflated.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, we've had quite a lot of questions emailed to us at our email address, theblackburnend@gmail.com, and on the post. So thanks everyone for that. We'll get into a few of them now. In fact, we might need to make the answers pretty quick because we've had a good whinge for an hour and 15 minutes now, Mark. And
it's a proper whinge, that. Yeah.
We've had a right little cry and whinge together. I love it. So, Mark Atherton, thanks for emailing these in. So he's interested about contracts. So he said, obviously, about the January signings. However, contract extensions still seem to be not progressing as they did under Greg. Heard Dolan's still on the table, but not sure if we've improved it. There was mention for Hedges. Also about maybe getting the manager, because I think his contract's up to 2026. But there's discussions about Heim, Trav, Tronstad, Danny Bart, Gilson, and they're all out of contract next year. So what he's basically asking is, should we be worried under this regime, the fact that we're not seeing many contracts signed?
I think there's different reasons. I think I would like to see people like Dom Hyam under more than a 18-month contract. I think we've been burnt before. You get to 18 months and then you start getting in this, do we sell them? Do we keep them? What's happening with Dolan? I know we're protected a bit with Dolan because he's got, we'll get some sort of training fee for him. But we've seen this with Brereton, with Rothwell, and it's no good having to rip your team up and start again every 12 to 18 months. So I would like to see us do exactly what they said under the last regime and not let players get to 2 years, below 2 years, really. Be renegotiating 2 years to 18 months. And they said if you get to 12-month part and they're showing no sign, then we sell them. I think that's a policy you should adopt as a club. For people that are established first teamers and you want to keep them and you build a new team around them. Otherwise, I get there's a school of thought that people play better sometimes when they've got a contract to play for, but I worry more about the other end, because if they start playing well and then you can't keep hold of them, or you just end up ripping everything up, and you put loads of work into those players, loads of your stamp on them, and it's wasted, and you're starting again. So, I think there's different reasons, though, isn't there? I get the feeling it's a club thing where they're not engaging those players that have got an extension, and so they've effectively got 18 months or so. But Dolan got a new agent, didn't he? And it's all gone very, very quiet since then. So who knows? Yeah,
I mean, I've said it about Dolan. I don't think he'll be with us next year. And I'll be honest, I don't think it's going to be much of a loss, but that's a different story. So next question from Mark Goodchild. So it's something that he's emailed in about, and I haven't brought it up with you on the previous two games, but it's about the mass substitutions that we've made on the 84th minute. When if we're drawing games up to the 77th, given that the average time added on is 5 minutes, you have 9 minutes to change the game. I accept this only takes seconds to score, and I assume that's what he wanted to do, given that they were all attacking ones. I'm suggesting that the subs were way too late. Now, we've talked about Eustace in the past and how good his subs actually are and how they've changed games, but suddenly that seems to have gone by the wayside. What do you think it's just... I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we've obviously discussed the fact that the benches aren't strong and the people coming on aren't necessarily fit. Do you think it's just a case of throwing enough shit and some of it hopefully sticks?
I mean, there's often a plan to his substitution. So I know at Leeds away, he talked about how Gay was always, when Ohashi went down and he brought Leonard on, Gay was always planned to be keep the game tight and last 20 minutes or so, let him cause havoc, and we'll change the way we're playing and we'll knock balls longer. So there's often a plan to his, method to his madness, if you like. I think the Beck one he talked about a weekend, he only had 20 minutes maximum in him. So that's what that one was. I think sometimes when he's putting Rankin Costello on as a late sub, I know it's not the case in these, but I feel like Rankin Costello almost thrives in those situations. It doesn't matter where you put him on the pitch. You can put him at left back, he'll end up in the box. If there's a corner or there's a long ball, he's always there. So I think a bit like at Plymouth that time, he kind of brings chaos and you lose some team shape to it. but that's what you want at that point. You're just throwing everything at it. So you can probably only do that for 10 minutes or so. So I think that's why Rankin Costello does it. But I think there's an element of the others that he doesn't trust them. I'm getting the feeling now he doesn't trust Leonard. And there's a number of players he doesn't trust. And I think what he's doing is going, right, it hasn't worked for the others. I don't trust you to be able to, whether that's work within the team shape or whatever it is, but I've got to just try something.
No, I agree. I genuinely think it's just throw as much on as you can. I think it is a trust thing. I think you're right. I think it's the fact that he knows that if he brings them on earlier, they haven't necessarily got the quality. They haven't necessarily got the fitness to actually come on and make a difference as an individual. So if you throw 4 on at the same time, it's making them think a little bit more. You've changed the formation. Sometimes I look and it's like there isn't a formation. It's like literally everyone just go on and do something. And it feels like
that does happen. You know, teams are so well prepared that they know who they're picking up. They know who they're having from this corner, what this corner routine will be. You kind of create a bit of chaos, aren't you? Is effectively what you're doing. He likes to do that, by bringing Gay on, but he's not got that option because Gay's on the pitch. He creates it through mass subs. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
There's a method to it.
Yeah, exactly. But we've got another question. It's going back to someone we've just spoken about, and it's from Philip Davis, who said, why is no one interested in signing Dolan if he is Premier League quality in quotations? Okay, I'll take this one, Mark, because I have been bashing Dolan quite a bit, and the only reason I've bashed him is the very same situation with Sam Gallagher, is they have so much potential, and this is why I get irritated. This is why I'm very passionate, because there's a lot of players that come and go that I'm just like, oh, they're rubbish, and I won't talk about them because I have no expectation for them. I don't expect them to be better players or anything. They are who they are, and I can just accept it. For example, you know, maybe a John Buckley, someone like that, where I've kind of made my peace with the fact that they are who they are, they're at the level that they're at, and that's it. Dolan has potential, but his football intelligence is just not there. Whether it's an arrogance thing, an intelligence thing, I'm not sure. And he's not an arrogant lad, but I mean from a playing point of view. So you'll see him do these stupid little stutter steps. He turns. He has no real pace as such. He looks quick because his feet are going a million miles an hour, but he's not really beating anyone. The one time he did beat someone, like we said at the weekend, we get a goal out of it, but it's just silly things. He puts himself into blind alleys, and he reminds me of a slower Kedra, because when Kedra, which one was it? Cadra. You know, so it felt like his brain wasn't catching up with where he actually was on the pitch. And I think that's just where we're at with him. I think he has a lot of potential. He just needs to learn the game. And for someone that's played this many games, he should be more experienced in what to do with a football. The amount of times he has his head down, he turns, and then he does something silly, passes it out of play, tries a piece of skill and gives it away. He gives the ball away far too many times. He's a good player, but for me, unless he sorts out the intelligence side of playing football, he's never going to make it. I mean, what's your opinion on Dolan?
Similar. I think he looks at the minute like a really frustrated player. He looks like somebody that would... He's still very young, isn't he? So there's that to it. But he has played a lot of games, and you would think he would have developed a bit more. I think that's part of what the struggle is with it. I mean, he had a little bit of skill, jinked past his man, and then was quite an erratic with the finish, wasn't he? I thought he clipped the bar at first, but it hadn't. I think there will be people sniffing around him because he can be quite eye-catching. Quite interestingly, opposition fans always seem to notice him and always think he's someone who stands out to them. But then he's really frustrating to us. There will be teams buzzing around him, but maybe they think they can get him cheaper from whether it goes to tribunal or what, I don't know. But
I don't think we'd get much for
Yeah.
him, though. Say he went Premier League, he'd be a very, very low cost risk, wouldn't he? His wage wouldn't be that much. I don't think we'd get much for him. I genuinely think if someone came in like with $1.5 million now, we'd accept it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. I don't think it'd take much to pry him away.
I think the only thing with that is I think you look at players and their value is based on what they bring to you and what it will cost you to replace them. For us, that doesn't seem to apply, does it? Because we've brought in 38 reportedly £1 million, and we haven't really replaced them. So maybe we'd take the $1.5 million, who knows? But I would look at it and think, right, well, if we can bring Thomas Asante in for $1.5 million or whatever, is that worth doing? And then that's their decision to make. That's the way I would kind of look at it. But we don't do that, do we? Seemingly.
No. But like I said, I don't think he'll be here next year. I think if there was a contract to be signed, it would have been signed by now. He's young. Someone will take a risk on him. If his contract runs out, it's not like one of these where he's going to go feel the market, see what's there. I think he will get opportunities elsewhere. It just depends whether he wants to play regular football or not. And considering I think if everyone was 100% fit in our side, he would not necessarily be starting. And
100%.
So if that's his level now, he's not going to be leaving to get regular football if it's to a club higher than us.
Yeah, I think if everybody was fit, and certainly if Eustace could bring in a couple of players, a winger and a striker, he'd be on the bench. But what I would say about him is he is still young. He will be disappointed that he's not got his numbers up this year, because that was the big thing he talked about at the end of last season and the beginning of this. But he's fit every week, near enough, and he couldn't play 90 minutes. And in the Championship, he's young, he can play 90 minutes, he's eye-catching at times, there's stuff to work with. Someone will take a gamble on.
Yeah, definitely. So the one and only Juice has messaged in to say, how long will Eustace be able to tolerate this lack of investment? Does he have as much patience and dedication as Mowbray, or will he wilt and bolt like JDT? So my opinion on this one is I think they're just at different stages of their careers. You're comparing two younger managers to a guy that was long in the tooth, that was quite happy with where he was. He was happy with what we were doing. He'd proved himself at other places, and I think he was very comfortable being at Rovers and not necessarily seeing out his career, but he just seemed happy with where he was at. Whereas I think JDT is we know he was very ambitious, and I think Eustace is going to be ambitious. He's a relatively young manager. I think he's proved himself as someone that can motivate players and make chicken salad out of chicken shit and pull rabbits out of hats, whatever pun you want to use. I think that I worry that if by the end of the season we haven't invested and there's no, chance and he's not getting the right vibes, I think he could potentially just say, look, I'm not signing any new deal. I'm just going to see this out and see that, because the way the owners are at the moment, they don't seem to be wanting to make any risks on their signings. I mean, going back to the rant I had earlier, and Gary called me out saying I should listen to Mark. He talks about how a transfer works. It's like, yes, I understand how a transfer works, but what I'm questioning is the policy of the Venkies, and the policy needs to change. And I think if the policy doesn't change and we're not seeing some movement in that policy and actually starting to try and bring players in, I think Eustace could be one that just says, yeah, I'm just going to see out this contract and move on. What about you?
I think football's very, very fickle. I even saw a couple of people calling for his head at weekend, which is just absolutely ridiculous. If we don't seem like we can make him any moves forward, I think he will leave in the summer. My concern is because his stock's quite high at the moment, and you get to 10 games into next season, even if we spent no money, and it'll all be used, not all be used as his fault, that's not true, but a lot of it will be used as his fault, and he'll be out the door, and people will be looking at Rovers near the relegation zone, and his stock's dropped again. So I think he'd be daft not to protect himself a little bit. My concern comes if we don't back him in the next week or so, and he looks at it and goes, we're going to drop like a stone here, then is that enough to make him want to do it now? I don't think it would be. But, if we was floating around 7th, but actually the gap to 14th is a point or 2, 3 points, and he feels, do you know what, I've not got enough here. We are going to end up dropping. Do you cut your losses as a manager and go, my stock's the highest it's going to be because it's going to drop soon? No matter what you say about the investment and whatever, anything else, it will reflect on me a bit. I'm going to cut my losses now. I don't think he will. My gut feeling says he'll leave in the summer.
Yeah, I'm concerned about this because I know that we weren't sold with John Eustace when he first came in, but he's shown this year that he's someone that can get us to where we need to be. Tim DYO has actually said, in your opinion, from now until deadline, what would be considered a successful, poor, or disastrous transfer window for Blackburn Rovers? I genuinely think it's going to be between poor and disastrous. I think that, and I think that's really going to put Eustace off. I think he's going to be feeling extremely negative, and we would have to convince him next year that there's a plan in place. I mean, it's got to a point now where I don't. We've been doing this for quite a few episodes now. We had the podcast last year as well, and we've tried to kind of piece together the Venkies and what's in it for them. And I don't get it now. I don't understand. We need investment. We need it now. And if they're not doing it, and you've got a manager there that needs help, you've got a playing staff that needs help, we've got an opportunity to really crack on. This is the perfect opportunity for them to really prove what they mean, like when they say all these words about how they love the club and how they back it. And at the moment, it's all sorry, Aaron put it's all shit. No, it's all fart, no shit or something. It just made me laugh. But it is all talk, and ultimately, it is all talk. If we don't see any movement in this year, in this next week, between from now to the end of the window, if there's no movement, no opportunities to actually build, I think Eustace is going to have enough, and I think he will just wait for the next opportunity. I think the fans will have had enough, and I think we'll all now be questioning why another window has gone. What is the point of these owners not investing? Because it's another opportunity now, and if they don't strike while the iron's hot once again, what's the point? What is the point?
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep the same energy as last week. And I did say the players we're looking for in terms of positions are ones that will come in late. And I didn't think they'd come in before the last couple of days of the deadline. I'm going to stick to that. But I will judge it after then. But right now, I am fearing the worst, as we all are. However, we don't hear much from the club. And then we get a text at 10:10 saying, staying up, anyone? And then a signing comes through the door. So I am still keeping that energy just for now. But what I will say is people turn around to us and say, oh, we're always a selling club. We've always been one, even under the Walkers and things like that. I have a bit of an issue with the term selling club. I think what you are is you should be a well-run club. And some of that involves selling players when their value's at its peak and using it wisely. Of course, we cannot sell. We sold Rocky Santa Cruz for £17 million. Of course, we're not going to use all that £17 million we did. The same with Bentley, same with Duff. But you've got to become a better team. Now, I'm going to use Coventry for it, which is a bad example, bear in mind where they are in there now. But they sold Gokares, they sold the left back, they sold 2 or 3 others, and I think they became a better team, actually, until O'Hare went, and that was one too many. But they became a better team. If you're going to sell Smodic, you're not going to be able to replace the goals. I accept that. So I'll park him for a second. He was kind of a one-off. But if you're selling Adam Wharton, who's a bit of a luxury player and a very, very, very talented footballer, I think there is a case that you can say, we sell Adam Wharton and become a better team. And the way you do that is not to go and spend all that money, but is go and spend 5-10 million of it. Actually, we could have become a better team then. And if instead you start bringing in £40 million and spending 5 of it, that's only going to end in one way. And my concern is we are losing more and more assets that are saleable and relying more on absolute rabbits out of the hat than ever before. Now, you can say we did that.
And that's what's frustrating, isn't it? That's what's giving us a headache.
We brought Santa Cruz in, we brought McCarthy in, and we sold them for, well, certainly Santa Cruz, we bought them cheap, sold them high. I get all of that. But this is now becoming very, very different. This is becoming a decimation of the team. And then I start to go, well, what happens when we run out of players that are worth 5-6 million? I know they turn up. I know you still get Britton, who, you could probably get 5 million for him, Carter potentially at some point. These players will still always happen a little bit. But they are running out now, aren't they? And what happens?
Well, this is what I said to you last week. Who in the squad right now is a sellable asset that you think someone's going to come in and take a risk on? Callum Britton, okay. He's shown some recent form that is way above what he was. So as much as we was a fan, I never felt that worried that he was going to be going to a bigger club. He's shown a lot more form. Past that, there's no one, and this is why I'm getting even more frustrated, because there's not many players now you can hang your hat on and say that's a game changer. That's someone who I know is going to take us to the next level. Cantwell is still a risk. He's a quality player. It's still a risk. And Callum Britton, he's now found some form. Is the form going to be permanent? And that's his ability. The time will tell. But yeah, there's just, I love this. I love these players. I love the manager. But let's be honest, they're not the quality that's going to take us to the next level on their own.
No, and I think, you look at Britain. Let's use Britain as an example because he's here and he's now. And there was rumours early on in the window that it got to Sunderland for 5 million. Ordinary clubs would say, you know what, 5 million, crack on and have him. We'll bring Owen Beck in, but you'd have it lined up. He's here on loan. We can get him for a couple of million. And then 3 million goes into the club. Great stuff. Or we bring a cheaper right back in. And that's how you progress as a club. That's normal. That's normal progressive club behaviour. We know you can't. If somebody comes in like Smodics and scores 30 goals, you can't keep them. You can't keep them in the Championship. Fine. But you've got to then still find a way of moving forward as a club and trying to be better. You're not going to replace his goals, I accept that. But trying to use the fact you've got to sell Adam Wharton because of, he's outgrown you. Bring that money in and try and move forward and become a better squad and team. And I just feel like we're steadily getting worse. And I feel like we've wasted. I think the last transfer window is the first one where I think we've come out of it better than we went in, out of the last 5. And right now, we're looking that it's going to be 5 out of the last 6 transfer windows where we've come out worse than we went in. Like, it's not sustainable.
And I don't know why this isn't garnering more attention, because it is like asset stripping. I mean, they talk about fit and proper persons test and all of this and testing owners, but who's actually looking into the running of the club since they take over? It's. I mean, we're come to the end of the pod now, so it's a bit. It's something that we'll discuss after the window, because we don't know. We could have £25 million worth of talent turn up between now and the end of the window, and God, I hope it does happen. It ain't going to happen. I'll be shocked if we spend 250,000. Across whatever players we bring in. There will be someone coming through the door. There will be players signed, but it's going to be, is it going to be some free transfer of someone that couldn't find a club? Is it going to be a loan that's a risky loan? Where's the signings? I can't, where's the signings where you look at them and you're like, that is going to make us better. That player is going to make us better. Every signing that we seem to have has an element of risk. And I don't want that anymore. I want a time where we can look at a player and we know it's not a risk. You said it last week, like an Adam Armstrong, obviously when we signed him, it still was a risky signing, just like a Ben Brereton, and even Schmodix was. But, if you could sign Adam Armstrong right now, that's not a risky signing. And I'm not saying that we would attract a player like that quality. I just want us to sign players that I can just look at and say, we have got better today. That player's come in, we have got better. We haven't added depth. There's no risk. We have just brought in a player that's made us better. That's all I want. I'm not expecting us, like let's say we've brought in £50 million. I'm not expecting us to go and spend £50 million, 40, 30, even 20. But just go and spend something. Show that it's not all been for nothing. That's what I'm asking for.
Like you said earlier on in the pod, mate, if you run it like a business, football's not a business. It's a passion project. No. And if we're turning around and saying, well, we can't get the players that make us better within our budget, then the simple thing is your budget's not big enough. And if that's no good and you don't want to put up with that, then don't own the football club.
No, not every signing can hit. You can't, so sometimes you do need to spend a decent amount of money and it doesn't work. We did it with Brereton and it ended up working. We just didn't sell at the right time and he walked for free. Sometimes you've got to take a risk. The policy that they've got needs to change. And like I said, maybe we shouldn't have this conversation now. Maybe we need to put a pin in it. But right now, I can't see anything happening between now and the end of the window that's going to blow my skirt up and make me happy. But time will tell, Mark. Time will tell. But do you feel better now after having a chat? Because I don't.
I feel like someone's just tried a pair of jeans on and said, does my bum look big in this? Do you want the answer, the honest answer, Mike? Because the honest answer is no. I don't feel much better. But I am telling you now, we are going to beat Preston and we will have a better squad this time next week than we have right now.
God, I hope so. I hope so. Well, cheers for joining me, Mark. It's always a pleasure, even in the darkest days. It's good to have a chat.
Always. And let's be honest, we are just two blokes who love a football club and will say some things. We might change our opinion. We might react. And it's not through any malice. It's just because we really bloody love our football club.
We certainly do. It's a bad relationship at times, but sometimes it's good. But Mark, thanks for joining me.
No worries. Thank you for having us, Mike.
And we'll see everyone next week, hopefully with loads of positive news. We're all positive again and we can all enjoy it. It's a huge game Friday. It's a big week for the club. Can we improve the squad? Can we get some points on the board again? Can we recover the season? Let's wait and see. But until then, we'll see you next time.